Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise, and this is 10 to Life, where we are talking all things true crime. We are talking about current cases, previous cases we've covered, updates in cases, cold cases, love triangles, murder cases. I mean, literally, you name it, and we are talking about it. So if you are checking out the channel for the very first time, first of all, welcome to 10 to Life. I hope you enjoy it. I want to make this kind of like a conversation with friends, so I hope you kind of like get the vibe and you're into it. And if you appreciate the channel and the case coverage today, make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you get notified when I post new case videos, so you can just keep up. And for all of my returning 10 to Lifers, welcome back. As always, I appreciate you so much, and I am so happy to have you guys here with me today. We are talking about a love triangle today. One that we've talked about before, but one that's got a lot of updates going on and some more information and new photos and new footage and like the works. But it is a true love triangle to its core. And this case is one that has been making the headlines for quite some time now, and it is a very strange one. Like I said, we've talked about this case before, but there are more updates and more detailed information that has come out since we last talked. So today I'm going to start back at the beginning, and we're going to do a quick little recap with a fine-tooth comb and talk about everything in this bizarre love triangle twisted case and all of the details now that are coming back out. So buckle up, get your red flags ready, and let's discuss this tumultuous story of a love triangle that turns deadly.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
Thank you to Helix Sleep for sponsoring today's video. I'm always on the go and don't have much time to sleep. So when I do have time to sleep, it's important to me that it's quality sleep. So come along with me as I unbox my new Helix Sunset Luxe mattress. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses and bedding that are customized to fit your needs and conveniently ships right to your door. It comes rolled up in a box and is super easy to set up yourself. I'm not gonna lie, I enlisted my husband's help because I just got my nails done, but don't judge me. And everybody's different. Helix knows that. So they made this sleep quiz to match your unique body type and sleep preferences to make the perfect mattress for you. Personally, I'm a side sleeper. I like to get nice and cozy and curled up in the fetal position. So based on my results, Helix matched me with their Sunset mattress. As we were setting it up, I had to take on a little bit more of a supervising role because I really just didn't want to mess up my nails, guys, but I was so excited to try it out. And this is where we realized that the mattress was actually upside down and we had to flip it. But relatable, am I right? Finally, we got the mattress in the right position and I was so excited to try it out that I had to just jump on top of it. And oh my gosh, was it the most comfortable and fluffiest experience I've ever had. I'm always nervous when it comes to mattresses because it's a pretty big commitment, but with Helix, you get a 100-night sleep trial along with a 10-year warranty. Plus, there are financing options and flexible payment plans. So if it makes you nervous to buy something that you haven't tried, you get more than 3 months to make sure that you'll love it. And if you don't, they'll pick it up for you and you'll get a full refund. I've had my Helix for over a month now, and I am literally obsessed with it. It seriously is just so comfortable. It's like jumping into a cloud every single night. I'm serious. It's like I get in this like nice, warm, comfy little cloud, I sink into it, and I just never want to leave. I love my Helix, and I think you would too. So if you're looking for a new bed, check out Helix. Click on the link below or head to helixsleep.com/10tolife for up to $200 off your Helix sleep mattress, and you get 2 free pillows with that, which are also super duper comfy. Thank you again, Helix, for sponsoring today's video and for giving me a nice fluffy moon cloud in my room. And as always, thank you to all of you viewers for understanding that sponsors are essential to the channel if we want to grow it to a place where I can deliver you more true crime all the time. Now let's jump back into today's case. Moriah Wilson, otherwise known as Mo, is a 25-year-old accomplished athlete and had every single thing in her life going for her. She comes from an extremely athletic family, with her mother Karen being a cycling instructor and her father Eric Wilson being on the 1977 U.S. ski team from Burke Mountain Academy. Mo followed in her father's footsteps. She also attended Burke Mountain Academy, where he was a ski coach at the same time that she was attending school. She and her brother also became very accomplished skiers themselves, just a very athletic and talented family. Mo was not only a Division I skier and captain of her soccer team, but more recently, she took up gravel racing and was quickly and swiftly making impressive strides in the sport. She was an up-and-coming prodigy, very quickly winning at just an astounding rate and making a name for herself in this community. And I am talking true talent and like gritty talent. I honestly, when I played soccer, I was young. I just took blades of grass and like shoved them in the hole and sat Indian style. Like the talent here is just unmatched. However, one thing that Mo could not foresee was that being a part of this new and exciting community would ultimately lead to her life being cut short at the hands of jealousy, out of all things. Not risk with the sport, not dangerous activities, jealousy. Upon graduating from Dartmouth University in 2019, Mo pursued professional racing. In 2 years, she quickly worked her way up the ladder, creating a big name for herself, and she was eventually able to quit her 9-to-5 job and become a full-time professional cycler. She gained relationships with so many new sponsors as well as friends throughout the community that she became very close with. This community also led her to meeting 35-year-old Austin, Texas resident Colin Strickland, who was another professional cycler who she shared a sponsor with. In October 2021, Mo visited Colin in Austin, Texas, where the two began a relationship, but it ultimately didn't last very long. Both Mo and Colin were freshly out of previous relationships when they began dating. The two of them only dated for a few weeks and then broke it off in November of 2021. Mo then returned home to California, and Colin decided to rekindle his 3-year relationship with a 34-year-old yoga instructor named Kaitlin Armstrong. But due to being in the same gravel racing community, which is tight-knit, Colin and Mo decided to remain friends, and according to Colin, they had a very platonic relationship after he and Kaitlin got back together and after he and Mo had broken up. Kaitlin, however, was extremely jealous of their friendship, and she was not having any of it. She did not want Mo around. She just didn't understand the connection that Mo and Colin shared, and also had no idea, apparently, that they had ever been previously romantically involved, because I guess Colin never shared that detail with her. However, you know how it goes. Us women have really rock-solid intuition most of the time. So Kaitlin could feel it in her gut that there was something between the two of them. They weren't just these close platonic friends that Colin was making it out to be. She could sense that there was more. So she blocked calls from Colin's phone often, to the point where Colin actually had to start hiding Mo's number under a different name in his cell phone entirely. In January of 2022, there was a gravel racing event in Arkansas, where Mo, of course, went, and so she and Kaitlin came face to face for the very first time. The tension was thick between the two of them, and uncomfortable. Now, at this point, Mo wasn't trying to get Colin back. They were just friends. They tried to date. It didn't work out. They were now platonic. But Kaitlin had no idea that they had ever dated, but she felt their closeness, which I have to just say, I have been in situations like that in the past, and it's almost as though, and you may have been in this situation too, so let me know in the comments below. It's almost as if the man is kind of gaslighting you, being like, no, they're just my friend. You're acting crazy. You're overthinking it. But your intuition is like, no, they're talking more frequently than friends would talk. They're saying certain things, their body language, like it's something more. And they try to convince you that you're making it all up in your head, to where then you start doubting yourself, and it just like creates this bigger crap storm. All the while, Mo, or whoever was the other party in your situation or my situation, for an example, thought that I knew that they had dated. So the fact that I was acting weird was weird to her, being like, why is she so like bent over this? You know, we're not even together anymore. But it's because of the hiding and the manipulation. And I just kind of want to start with that. So they are at this event, face to face, the tension is thick. After the event, Mo texted Colin, stating that this weekend was really strange and that she just wanted to know what was going on. She asked if he just wanted to be friends because that was the vibe that she was getting, and that she, again, would be okay with that. However, she didn't want to apparently talk about it. So this kind of leads me to believe that maybe Colin, although they were platonic at this point, maybe he was flirtatious, maybe he was kind of keeping her on the back burner, and that's what the message exchanges were, because for her to then ask like, hey, are we just friends? Like, what is going on? It seems like he's kind of being a little shady here, just my opinion. And I've dealt with shady men, so that's why I'm saying that. Because I don't know about you, but it just does not sound super platonic to me. So at some point in January, Kaitlin had discovered details about the romance that had happened during she and Colin's breakup a few months prior back in the fall, and Kaitlin was pissed. Rightfully so. She was enraged, and according to friends, she was actually physically shaking with anger when she found out. And then she told one friend that she wanted to kill Mo. And this is something I never will understand. Whenever there is a cheating allegation or an affair, why do women always attack the woman? Like, yes, if they are a willing participant, and I'm not saying that Mo was in this circumstance, but if they are a willing participant, they are to blame as well, equally to blame. But also, you can't just let the man slide. You can't just act like he did no wrong and it's all this woman's fault. No, he is the one who's orchestrating all of this. But all of Kaitlin's anger was funneled directly at Mo. And so the pieces of the puzzle began to fit together, and Kaitlin began to realize why she had felt so uncomfortable with Colin and Mo's friendship all of those months. She knew that they had shared a deep connection, and she wasn't crazy. She wasn't making this up in her mind, so getting that validation only fueled her fire. So a few months pass, and apparently Kaitlin finally starts to come to terms with the relationship that Colin once shared with Mo. However, a turn of events ensues when Mo comes to Austin on May 10th, 2022, to participate in a race that was happening in the area. Because again, remember, it's a very tight racing community, so if there's a race anywhere, they're going, and this one happened to be in Texas where Colin and Kaitlin lived. So now it's getting a little too close for comfort, like, all right, I've accepted it, I'm starting to move on, I'm okay with it. No, now you're in my city? No, get out of my city. She's getting a little heated. So May 11th, the very next day, Colin secretly made plans to take Mo swimming at Deep Eddy Park after 5:30 p.m. Again, shady ass guy. So Colin picked Mo up on his motorcycle, and after swimming, they grabbed some food before Colin dropped her back off at the friend's house where she was staying. And then he drove off without waiting to see if Mo actually made it inside safely or not. So like, first of all, you're a scumbag because you're like playing both sides and you're lying and you're taking her on a date when she's in your city or going swimming or whatever. But now it's like, you're not even like, where's chivalry? You're doing all this and you're not even making sure she gets in the house okay? Beat it, guy. Beat it. Now, as all this was happening, Colin had actually lied to Kaitlin about what his plans were for the day so that he was able to go and hang out with Mo without having to worry about Kaitlin being jealous or freaking out. Player. Which again, if you're trying to make your relationship work and she's jealous and has reason to be jealous because you hid things from her in the past, maybe it's not in your best interest to hang out with this person, or maybe it's not in your best interest to lie about hanging out with this person. At 8:36 p.m., Colin texted Kaitlin that he had been dropping off some flowers at a friend's house and that his phone died. And just 1 minute after Mo arrived back at her friend's house, a black 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a bike rack on the back was caught by neighboring video footage, and it was driving by Mo's friend's house. Mo had entered her friend's house at the exact time that Colin had sent that text to Kaitlin. And this was confirmed by the personalized code of the smart lock that was given to Mo to access the home while she was staying there. It said that Kaitlin was apparently tracking Colin's locations using an app called Strava. And this is an app that tracks cyclists and runners' activity and their paths. And Kaitlin was not fooled by Colin's lies of his phone dying and delivering flowers. She knew something was up, and she was tracking his ass. Later that night, Mo's friend frantically called 911 to report that she came home and found Mo unconscious on the bathroom floor and bleeding from multiple gunshot wounds to her torso. First responders rushed to the scene and quickly began to attempt CPR. However, tragically, Mo was already dead. Mo's bike was also found in a thick area of bamboo down the street, and it's believed that this was a poor attempt someone made to make this look like maybe it was a robbery rather than a murder. On May 12, 2022, upon investigating the crime, police noticed that Kaitlin had an outstanding Class B warrant for an unrelated charge. She had allegedly skipped out on paying for her Botox procedure back in 2018 after claiming that she had a different credit card in the car and she was going to go grab it really quick, but then she never came back, and so she never paid her bill that was $650. So she had this outstanding warrant for that. So word to the wise ladies, always pay your Botox bills. So Kaitlin was apprehended, and she was brought into the Austin Homicide Department. She was asked what had happened in the last 24 hours, and when asked about Mo, Kaitlin became very still and unresponsive. The cops then confronted her with the neighbor's video footage of Kaitlin's car, the Jeep, driving past the home that Mo was staying in, and they asked her why she hasn't mentioned this, despite several opportunities to bring it up. The police began to ask about a possible love triangle that involved Colin, Mo, and herself, of which Kaitlin just rolled her eyes at. And she began to become very agitated and increasingly angry at the line of questioning. So she asked if she could leave, and because of a technical error in the warrant database, they had the wrong date of birth, and legally, they could not even hold her for the warrant. So Kaitlin was free to walk, free to go. As soon as she left the station, she began to work very quickly. It was time to put a plan in motion. She booked a flight from Texas to New York, she deactivated her social media, and she completely vanished. After reviewing video footage, investigators saw Kaitlin arrive at the Austin airport on May 14th around 12:30 p.m., and then board a flight to Houston, and then later board another flight to LaGuardia Airport in New York. 5 days after her initial interview, the U.S. Marshals issued a homicide warrant for Kaitlin.
A manhunt once confined to Texas has now crossed state lines. New video of a suspect tonight accused of murdering a 25-year-old professional cyclist shows her traveling to New York. This is the latest development in that love triangle that appears to have gone terribly wrong. This is Kaitlin Armstrong, caught on surveillance video in Austin's airport just 3 days after her alleged crime. She is wanted in connection to the death of Moriah Wilson, and those who knew her best called her Mo. Correspondent Kelly Beeson is here with the very latest on the search.
Yeah, and Mo Wilson's murder obviously causing shockwaves, not only through her family and her loved ones, but also the world of professional cycling. And now the hunt is on to find the woman police say gunned her down in what appears to be a fit of jealousy.
A suspected killer strolling through security at the Austin airport with a ticket to New York.
We can send collateral leads to New York.
The hunt for 34-year-old Kaitlin Armstrong began on May 11th when Austin police found Mo Wilson, a 25-year-old pro cyclist, shot to death in the home where she was staying. On May 12th, police interviewed Armstrong, and on May 14th, surveillance video captured Armstrong in Austin's airport. After more tips came in, police issued a warrant for her arrest on May 17th. Now the U.S. Marshals are releasing these photos of Armstrong, who they say flew from Austin to Houston and then to New York City.
You know, when someone leaves the area where a crime was committed, and of course she was interviewed on the 12th, and so that causes some suspicion.
Armstrong is accused of murdering 25-year-old professional cyclist Mo Wilson. Police say on May 11th, officers found Wilson's body at this Austin home with multiple gunshot wounds.
EMS shortly after arrived on scene, provided life-saving measures, but victim did succumb to her wounds.
A police affidavit paints a picture of a love triangle gone wrong. According to the document, Wilson had met with the suspect's boyfriend, Colin Strickland, a fellow pro cyclist, the night she was killed. Strickland, who said he briefly dated Wilson last fall, told police they went swimming and then to dinner. He then dropped her off at the home where she was later found dead. Detectives say 1 minute after Wilson arrived home, security footage shows an SUV similar to Armstrong's appearing to pull up outside. When officers confronted Armstrong with the video evidence, she provided no explanation and remained, quote, very still and guarded. Police later told her she was free to go. An anonymous tipster who police call credible say Armstrong discovered Strickland was romantically involved with Wilson and became furious, shaking with anger, and wanted to kill her. Wilson was a rising star in the cycling world, described as the winningest woman in the American off-road.
I really put a really hard effort in at the end.
She was also a talented skier. Now the search for her killer intensifies.
And U.S. Marshals describe Armstrong as 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighing 125 pounds. She has long, curly, light brown hair and hazel eyes. She was last seen on surveillance video wearing a jean jacket with a black mask and a possible yoga mat on her shoulders. Marnie, anyone in the public is asked to call 911 if they see her.
Wow, hard to believe they had her in custody at one point. All right, Kelly.
Shortly after her arrival in New York, a new ID was issued under Kaitlin's sister's name, Christina Armstrong. And this was incredibly suspicious because Christina's last known address was in California. But now, 3 days after Kaitlin arrives in New York, a New York ID was issued for her sister. On May 18th, Kaitlin was seen again on video footage, this time in New Jersey, in the Newark airport, being dropped off by somebody. The U.S. Marshals lost track of her and were unable to find a departing flight under Caitlin's name. On May 19th, Kaitlin was officially charged with first-degree murder. So a private investigator working on the case had the same suspicion that the police had, that Kaitlin was now possibly living under her sister's identity with this new New York ID, which could have been very easy to go unnoticed given that the two sisters looked very similar. As this was unfolding, Colin had publicly expressed remorse for the close ties that he had to this case and has since actually gone underground in hiding due to the fear that Kaitlin was going to come back for him and, finish the job of the two of them. So it's no longer a triangle, she's on her own. Colin stated that he ended his relationship too with Kaitlin and that Mo coincidentally was coming to town the weekend that he and Kaitlin broke up. Now, I don't know how true this is. I think maybe that is more of trying to save face and a thing of convenience because that would be a pretty big coincidence, but maybe it's true. I don't know. Colin stated that this was not planned and that he had clearly expressed to Kaitlin that he and Mo were going to be spending time together. He stated that Kaitlin had even been dating other people herself, and he said that they were going their separate ways, but were never able to officially separate due to owning several businesses together. He also stated that he was in total shock because Kaitlin was the least volatile person that he's ever known. Now, I have a few things with this, which kind of go back to him playing both sides. He's saying that they happened to coincidentally break up right before Mo came into town. That, Kaitlin was even moving on. She's dating other people too. And I told her I was going to see Mo. Then why'd you lie to her and text her that you were delivering flowers? Why'd you lie to her and tell her your phone was dead? If you had nothing to hide because you were broken up and she was also moving on, why would you be lying? I don't think so. I think this is definitely more like a saving face kind of tactic, personally. ABC's News conducted an exclusive interview with Kaitlin's father, Mike Armstrong. Let me play it for you here.
And now we're going to turn to the Texas yoga instructor wanted for murder. Her father is now speaking out, and our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, joins us from Austin with that. Good morning, Matt.
Hey, good morning, Michael. I spoke to that father last night. Mike Armstrong is shattered. He said his daughter is not capable of committing the crime she's accused of, murdering a love rival in a fit of jealous rage. But there is one thing that he and authorities agree upon at this point. There are a lot of unanswered questions here.
We love you, Katie, and we are going to figure this out.
This morning, the father of missing murder suspect Kaitlin Armstrong speaking exclusively with ABC News.
I know her, and I know how she thinks, and I know what she believes, and I know that she just would not do something like this. I know her. I know her.
He says his daughter is not capable of committing the crime she's charged with, shooting her alleged romantic rival, rising cycling star Moriah Wilson.
That is what they believe. I know that she did not do this. There are a lot of unanswered questions.
According to court documents, the day after Wilson's murder, police questioned Armstrong, confronting her with this surveillance video showing a dark SUV matching her vehicle driving away from the home where Wilson was found with a deadly gunshot wound.
Now, that's the camera that captured that Jeep Grand Cherokee driving up this alley. Minutes later, those shots were fired. Wilson was killed. But what's surprising is that none of the neighbors here said they heard anything.
When detectives told Armstrong the video made things not look too good, they wrote in the report she nodded her head up and down as if in agreement. That's when investigators say she asked to end the interview and was allowed to leave. By the next morning, Armstrong's social media accounts were reportedly wiped clean, according to the arrest affidavit, and she vanished. The U.S. Marshals joining the urgent search for her and say she may still be in the Austin area.
She was a realtor. She was a yoga teacher. So she had personal relationships here in the Austin area. We hope that eventually, if she had some type of plan, that maybe she would reach out to those associates and we would receive a tip based upon that.
Now, Mike Armstrong said he last spoke to his daughter about 5 days ago. He knew where she was then. Now, the U.S. Marshals say they have about 3 to 10 agents working on this at any given time. They say the key is finding that Jeep Grand Cherokee. Guys.
Ballistic evidence linked to the murder weapon was connected to a 9mm handgun that was purchased by Colin back in January as a gift for Kaitlin. And the gun was recovered back at the home that Colin and Kaitlin had shared. So this manhunt looking for Kaitlin went on for quite some time. Nobody knew where she had fled to. Nobody had a lead onto where she could have gone. Her sister wasn't really talking. They didn't have anything official to hold her on. So everybody was looking for Kaitlin and nobody could find her. But after a very long 43-day manhunt, Kaitlin was officially apprehended by local authorities in Costa Rica. U.S. Marshal's Office of International Operations, Homeland Security, and the Department of State Diplomatic Security Service were working with local Costa Rica authorities, where they eventually captured Kaitlin on June 29th at a hostel in Santa Teresa Beach. Kaitlin had used a fraudulent passport from Newark on May 18th and arrived in Costa Rica at approximately 8:30 p.m. Kaitlin had completely changed her look. She cut her hair, she colored her hair, and it was reported that she even allegedly had plastic surgery, which included a nose job, all to restructure her facial features and go unrecognized. I mean, this plan was elaborate. Kaitlin was deported back to the United States to face first-degree murder charges. And I don't know about you, but this entire escapade just seems like too big of a job to be done by just one person. There was clearly a lot of planning and quick thinking involved in this. So did Kaitlin act alone? Or was somebody else involved? Law enforcement was very focused on finding the Jeep, even stating at one point that it was the key to this case. However, Kaitlin had sold the Jeep to a local CarMax in the Austin area the day after she was questioned. Remember, I told you, she put this plan into play very quickly. She sold the Jeep for several $1,000s and under market value, and she collected $12,000 in cash. So this tells us that it was a very hasty decision and that she had every intention to run and just needed quick cash, which is why she was accepting less than market value. It's also possible that she sold it to get rid of any forensic evidence that may have made it into the car and linked her to the crime. So that very next day, she took her new bundle of cash to that Austin airport and began her string of flights, just hopping around. Now let's talk about Colin for a second. As we know, Colin had gone underground to hide from possible retaliation from Kaitlin, which who knows what she's capable of. We also know that Colin has not always been Mr. Perfect or the most stand-up guy out there, especially after his secret relationship with Mo. So many people on Reddit suspect that the text he sent Kaitlin just 1 minute after dropping off Mo was code that the target is in the house, as if he planned this entire thing and set Kaitlin up to execute it. Because remember, she also used the gun that he bought for her in January. And Colin also had stated that he and Kaitlin broke up that weekend before, their lives were changed forever. And if that was the case, why would Kaitlin be so angry at him for hanging out with Mo? Especially if Kaitlin herself had moved on and was dating as well. If they were truly broken up, why did Colin have to lie about who he was seeing that night, like I said earlier? So is anything Colin is saying true? Because for her, if they're broken up and she's dating somebody else, first of all, it's one thing to be pissed off that he's like going back to the girl who you were always suspicious of and you're angry about it, so he's lying about it. But if you truly are moving on and you guys are broken up, to be so angry that you escalate to murdering that person to get them out of the equation, that seems a little either far-fetched or Looney Tune to me. The U.S. Marshals hosted an incredible press conference where they announced the capture of Kaitlin Armstrong. And the press conference gave so much detail and answered most of everybody's questions on everybody's mind. Brandon Fila, the public affairs officer for the U.S. Marshals, went over the case and how they were able to capture Kaitlin Armstrong in great detail. He stated that the U.S. Marshals had posted a cash reward of $5,000 for tips leading to the arrest of Kaitlin, and Austin area Crime Stoppers posted a $1,000 cash reward, and apparently an anonymous donor also contacted the Austin area and donated an additional $15,000, making the total cash reward $21,000. So he confirmed that Kaitlin had boarded a United flight from Newark Airport on May 18th and arrived in Costa Rica around 8:30 p.m. He boarded the flight and fled to international territory using a passport that did not belong to her, but it did belong to somebody that she was closely associated with in the United States. U.S. Marshals immediately communicated with the Department of State Diplomatic Security Systems and continued investigative efforts where communication was then established with Costa Rica officials. U.S. Marshals deployed 2 marshals to the U.S. Embassy to assist the Department of State and foreign officials with intelligence on the possible whereabouts of Kaitlin. And what they learned was that Kaitlin had traveled to multiple locations that included San Jose, Hayco Beach, and Santa Teresa, Costa Rica, where she was ultimately found. She also used multiple names and aliases that included the name Beth Martin, Liz, and Ari Martin. And she used these names at different yoga studios and hostels that she frequented. Officials involved in the investigation conducted old-fashioned law enforcement techniques of going door to door and conducting multiple interviews, and they visited all of the yoga studios and all of the hostels that she had stayed at. This paved the way where Kaitlin was eventually going to be detained by authorities on Santa Teresa Beach. She was transported back to San Jose, which is about a 6-hour drive, where Kaitlin finally confessed to her true identity. According to foreign officials, she altered her physical appearance again by dyeing her hair, cutting it shoulder length, and then also she had a bandage and bruising on her nose, which looked like it was from plastic surgery and a nose job, which we later see a receipt for, but she tried to claim that it was from a surfboard incident just days prior. She was deported back to the U.S., and on July 7th, she arrived at the BCIA in Houston, where she was received by the Gulf Coast Violent Offenders Task Force and then transported and booked into Harris County Jail. The U.S. Marshals answered questions following their statement. One reporter asked if the owner of the passport that was used by Kaitlin will be facing any criminal charges, in which the agent stated that it was currently an active investigation. Agents, however, declined to answer if she had any assistance in her escape. Another reporter asked if she had gotten plastic surgery, and the agent stated that they were unable to confirm it at this point because the receipt obtained that showed the plastic surgery had an alias name on it. The agent stated that the documents found in her hostel were pretty unique. Kaitlin had kept her documents in a lockbox, and when confronted by authorities, she stated that she didn't have the key to it anymore. But when Kaitlin was taken away, a news affiliate had gotten in contact with the owner of the hostel, and that's when the owner voluntarily recovered the documents, the passport, and the $6,000 receipt from the plastic surgery facility. It appears that Kaitlin was trying very hard to create a life there in Costa Rica, working at yoga studios, going under different names, and so much so that she apparently even was dating a little bit.
Well, Kaitlin, I know her as Ari. Don't really know Kaitlin or the face. I've seen it like the Kaitlin. Ari was a strange person, but I met her right outside the tattoo shop, Good Life Tattoos, and her friends were getting tattooed, so she was waiting out there on the bench, and I was out there having a beer in the lounge, and it became apparent to me that she was trying to have a conversation, trying to get to know me. So then I started talking to her more and more, and then we ended up sharing numbers, and we're gonna hang out later, and we ended up hanging out a bunch of times later. And we went on a couple dates, but she said that she had just been through a real traumatizing breakup, and she hadn't healed from it yet, and wasn't ready to get close at all, so we were just being friends. And wanted to go out at different places. We went out to a bunch of different spots, but most of the time she wanted to kind of be a secluded spot, not a lot of people. And I didn't put any of it together. You wouldn't imagine it, but after it all happened, went by, and you hear what she was really doing and running from, it made sense why she didn't want to be seen, why she wanted to go to real secluded places, and it all kind of made a little more sense. They were using the old pictures, and I was like, oh, I don't know her. But then afterwards, they did the updates of the pictures of when she had her face lift or face change, and I was like shocked. I was like, what? That was who I've been hanging out with this whole time. And yeah, it sucks for the family that lost their sister and daughter, and that's really not cool, and I feel for them. And I didn't get to meet her. The person I met was Irie, is Katie.
Which I just want to say, guys, she was apprehended 43 days after being on the run. If you are so fueled with jealousy and anger because you love somebody so much that you feel like your only option is to murder the paramour that you suspect is dividing your relationship and breaking it up, how are you whole enough and healed enough to start dating 43 days later? If you were so distraught and heartbroken that you murdered somebody, how on earth are you like, now I'm going to start dating? Unless it was all a facade, which it could have very well been. In July, once back in the United States, Kaitlin attended her first Zoom court hearing dressed in black and white stripes. Her charges included felony first-degree murder with a bond of $3.5 million and theft of service with a bond of $3,500. Kaitlin pled not guilty to the first-degree murder charges. So District Court Judge Brenda Kennedy, who decided to bar cameras from the courtroom, placed Kaitlin's case on the docket for October 19th, and a jury trial is scheduled to take place the following week. So the judge went over her charges, citizens' rights, bail, and conditions if she were to be released, which included a curfew, GPS monitoring, and surrendering her passport. Kaitlin's attorney stated that Kaitlin wants the murder case to go to trial.
Naomi Howard, Mark Pryor, Rick Cofer. I'll say just a few words today because I do understand that there's intense media interest in Kaitlin Armstrong's case. I know that you'll have a lot of questions, and there will be a time and a place to answer those questions, but not today. There's a big picture here. This is a beginning of a process that will play out in court, and it should play out in court. And we understand that there are questions that need to be answered, and we look forward to doing so. But we also have some questions of our own. What you saw in that courtroom today was illuminating. Ms. Armstrong wants her day in court. She wants a trial. And you heard the district attorney threaten sanctions over her desire for a trial. As a matter of course, cases should not be indicted if prosecutors are not prepared to proceed. But we have some questions. Why did the Austin Police Department seemingly ignore a tip about the former boyfriend of Miss Wilson? Why did the Austin Police Department present inaccurate and misleading information to a judge when seeking an arrest warrant of Miss Armstrong? Did the inexperience of two key officers assigned to this case play a role in its apparent mishandling? Who vandalized the home of Kaitlin Armstrong and Colin Strickland the night of Wilson's death, and why? Unfortunately, a lot of the information that's been presented so far in the media is simply not accurate. I understand that reporters frequently will get information from so-called law enforcement sources. The police have a vested interest in painting a picture that supports their initial assumptions and actions. Law enforcement sources also might have an interest in glossing over details that could be of interest and relatable to their mistakes in the initial hours of this unfortunate situation, terrible situation. All I can ask of the press here is that you not consider everything told to you by law enforcement as confirmed and reportable facts. Simply put, there is a lot more to this story than has yet been heard. We will file motions challenging this investigation and challenging the conduct of the Austin Police Department. We look forward to this legal process ahead and these issues being heard in a court of law.
Is October too soon for a trial? Do y'all feel like
Kaitlin's attorney filed new documents just last month to try and suppress evidence. Her attorney claims that evidence was obtained with an illegal arrest warrant and that they had illegally arrested her back in May when she was first questioned because they apparently did not read her Miranda rights. The judge presiding over the case says she no longer anticipates that a trial will happen in October because she's going to have to now consider pending motions that these attorneys have filed. After defendant attorneys asked for a speedy trial earlier this year, had set an October trial date for Kaitlin, which would have been an exceptionally swift timeline for a murder charge. So that's where we are, guys. That's where we're at right now. We aren't sure if the trial is still going to proceed this month. I'm sure we're going to, of course, hear about that soon. However, it will be really interesting to see how all of this plays out because there are still a lot of questions and a lot of questions that I hope we get answered during this trial since she is so adamant that she wants to take it to trial. I would first like to know about who the person was that was so closely associated with her that they let her use their passport and who it was that helped her get to where she was going. I have my suspicions it was the sister, but I don't know that for a fact and it hasn't been stated, so I would like to know that. And I also want to know what is said about Colin and what discovery and what evidence comes into play there, and if Kaitlin tries to throw him under the bus. And I want to know what you guys think about Colin. Because remember, he was very sketchy when it came to if he and Kaitlin were still dating or not when Mo came into town that weekend. So do you think that he could be more involved than he is leading on to be? Or do you think he's just a player and he got caught up and he is now, the casualty in all of this because Kaitlin believed his manipulation, his lies, and then this all is the fallout of it? Or do you think he's more involved? I'd also like to hear more about what Kaitlin's attorney said when he was talking about the Austin Police Department ignoring a huge tip about Colin during the investigation. What is that tip? But at the end of the day, a very talented and ambitious young girl was murdered at the hands of Kaitlin, allegedly. And there were a lot of people who likely played a part in helping Kaitlin escape, who also need to be held accountable for this crime. And most importantly, I want to make sure and I want to see Mo's parents get closure and justice for their daughter, that somebody is held accountable and somebody answers to why this happened and answers for their actions. Just think about everything that Mo could have accomplished in her life if it wasn't so selfishly taken at the hands of just pure greed and jealousy and lies and betrayal. Got to throw that in there too. It's a big blender recipe for disaster. So I'm curious to know your guys' thoughts. Please let me know in the comments below. Let's have a healthy discussion about what you think of Colin's involvement or not, if he was a liar, if he was playing both of the girls, if Kaitlin just kind of went off the deep end. Let me know what you guys think. I'll continue to watch this case closely because, again, even though cameras, I believe, are not going to be allowed in the courtroom from the trial, I'm sure we will be getting daily updates whenever that trial does begin, and I am very curious to see what happens. If Kaitlin is so adamant about having a trial, it's my suspicion that she's also going to take the stand, and I would love to hear what she has to say. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please don't forget to just hit that like button on the way out. It is a quick, tiny little way to support the channel for free, and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and we will talk again very soon. All right, guys, until the next case, stay safe.